same way.
You see, they confuse the two. There is the Sabbath and there is the day. And in the law, yes, they say you must keep the Sabbath day.
Okay.
All right. I'm aware that this law was given to Israel. I'm aware. Israel was given this law to keep. And also I've heard some people say, no, there's no place where we were asked to also keep the law of the Jews. But in the same Bible, it is recorded that even the Gentile, even a stranger among you, even the slave among you would also keep this law.
Wow.
So there were Gentiles among the Jews that were to keep the Jewish law. Obviously not us, but those that had joined themselves to the Jewish religion, they were supposed to follow the Jewish law. We did not join the Jewish religion, no. What Jesus brought was not a Jewish religion, no. But a Gentile who was among the Jews was supposed to keep the law that was given to the Jews, yet he was a Gentile. So please get that part correct. So when you look at that, now you see, over here, if you want to tell me that I don't keep the Sabbath day, what do you mean? What are people saying when they say that you don't keep the Sabbath day? They are accusing you for not keeping the Sabbath day simply because you are worshiping God on Sunday. So they say you don't follow the Sabbath simply because you are worshiping God on Sunday. As if they have a scripture that says you are supposed to worship God on Sabbath. As if they have a scripture where God says, keep the Sabbath by going to church, by worshiping me on a Sabbath. I've heard some people also saying that, no, it's no longer, Sabbath is no longer Saturday, Sabbath is now Sunday. No, Sabbath is Saturday. It has always been Saturday. Oh, there's been a lot of distortions. Now we can no longer know. Maybe it's now on a Wednesday. No, according to Israel, it was so clear for them to know. If it's a Saturday, manna would not fall.
Right.
So you would definitely know this is now Saturday. You see, so it was easy for them to know. So Sabbath is on a Saturday. No question about it. So, but the question is, how do you keep it? Going to church. Who said that? But we have seen in the Bible, Jesus would go on a Sabbath into the synagogue. And also even Paul would move from synagogue to synagogue on Sabbaths. Was that a church or it was a synagogue? My question is very simple. Where did God say the worship ought to be on a Sabbath? Even if you can show me where they were gathering during the Sabbath days and worshiping, the question still remains, when God said you must keep the Sabbath day, was it about going to church on a Sabbath? That's the question, the golden question. Simply because people were meeting on a Sabbath. Those were synagogues. And Paul would go to synagogues, and Jesus himself would go to the synagogue because that's where people would gather. It would make sense to go and find them where they are.
Right.
If they were meeting on Wednesday, Jesus would still have come and preached to them. He gets into their synagogue and is preaching against everything that they are doing on the Sabbath. He goes into the field on a Sabbath, and his disciples are working. Now he tries to help them understand, I'm the king of this. The rest that I was talking about, what needs to be observed is not the day, rather.
Wow.
It is the one that gives rest. I am the rest. Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you Sabbath rest. I will give you rest. In me, you don't rest today and you work tomorrow. No. Observation of the Sabbath is when you discover the personification of the Sabbath. It's an individual, it's a personality that you find, and he gives you rest. So that one is so clear in as much as we have it in the law, but over here, it is so clear. It is so clear. So you have to go through all of these laws and see where they got fulfilled, where Jesus clearly told you that, no, this one, don't, this one. Okay, he comes and he says, you heard that you shall not kill. But I'm saying, even calling your brother a fool, And he says, you have heard that it was said that you shall not commit adultery. But I'm saying, even if you look at a woman lustfully, you have already committed adultery. What is he making reference to? The law that you already have, and he's coming, and he is further complicating. He's not making it even simpler. He's complicating it even further. So he's giving out his own laws against what was once given.
Okay. The law of Christ.
The law of Christ. So he gives us only the two laws in Matthew chapter number 22, verse number 36.
Matthew 22, verse 36.
Yes.
Master, which is the great commandment in the law?
Yes.
Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul.
Please keep that. With all thy heart, with all thy soul,
and with all thy mind.
The question was, what is the greatest law, right?
Yes. What is the greatest commandment
in the law? Yes. And then Jesus says what?
Thou shalt love the Lord thy God.
Love the Lord your God.
With all thy heart.
Yes.
With all thy soul.
Yes.
And with all thy mind.
Yes.
This is the first and great commandment. And the second
is
like unto it.
Yes.
Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself.
Yeah. He's giving us two laws. The first and the second. And upon these two, he says what?
On these two commandments hang
what?
All the law.
All the law. They hang on these two. All the law. They hang on these two.
All the law
and the prophets. Yes. Some of you might think Jesus was making a reference to the 10 Commandments. No, go to Deuteronomy, chapter number 6, verse number 5.
Deuteronomy 6.
You know the law, the 10 Commandments in Exodus chapter number 20. But Jesus is making a reference. Let's see where he's taking these laws from. It's not even from the 10 Commandments.
Exodus 6:5. Deuteronomy 6:5.
Deuteronomy 6:5, yes.
And thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thine heart.
You see that? With what?
With all thine heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy might.
That kind of emphasis is not even in the 10 Commandments. It's part of the 603 laws that were given. So Jesus is even touching some of those, bringing them here into the New Testament for us to observe. What was left there, you leave it there. What he gives here as a perpetual commandment, you have to keep it under the New Testament. Leviticus chapter number 19, verse 18. Let's see also, he's also making a reference to another law again.
Thou shalt not avenge, nor bear any grudge against the children of thy people, but thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. I am the Lord.
See where Jesus is speaking. He's not even picking. I know there are similar commandments in the 10 Commandments where you have to love your God, where you have to love your neighbor. But Jesus specifically went on to pick clearly defined statutes, commandments outside of the 10, where you have to love God, and there's a description to the nature of love with all of your might. He's not taking that from the 10 Commandments. So it's not everything outside of the 10 Commandments that you need to throw away. Look at how Jesus carefully selected commandments that ought to be kept under the New Testament. So we need to understand what God is dealing with here. There are laws that were given to Israel as a nation. And as a nation, that would be like a constitution that governs the nation of Israel. And Israel would not try to impose their laws, their civil laws upon the rest of the nations. No. Such laws are not supposed to be kept even by the Gentiles. We are not. We are not.